Welcome to Everyday English Podcast, where we practice real conversations for real life. Today, we are going to build a survival guide for the most terrifying 3 minutes of your career. You just met your interviewer in the lobby. You step into the elevator together, the doors close, and then pure, awkward silence. You stare at the floor numbers, your mind goes totally blank, and you feel that hot rush of panic.
I actually lost a job opportunity once because I was so frozen in the elevator, the boss thought I was unfriendly and lacking confidence.
By the end of this episode, you will have 3 bulletproof small talk formulas that make you look confident, friendly, and fluent before the meeting even begins.
I wish I had this episode years ago. When I first moved to the city, I would spend hours and hours preparing for the technical interview questions. I had flashcards, I memorized my resume, I practiced my answers in the mirror, but I completely ignored the walking time. I thought the interview started when we sat down at the table.
That is such a common trap. We put all our energy into the formal questions, but in Western business culture, the interview actually starts the exact second they say hello to you in the reception area. The walk from the front desk, the elevator ride, the walk down the hallway, that time is a test.
A test? That sounds a little intimidating. What are they testing you on if you were just walking down a hallway?
They are testing your cultural fit and your social fluency. They're asking themselves a very simple question. Do I want to work with this person every single day? Are they pleasant to be around? This is why we need to master something called small talk.
Is small talk just talking about the weather? Because I feel like I always default to saying that it is raining outside, and then the conversation just dies immediately.
Weather is definitely part of it, but think of small talk as the warm-up stretch before a heavy workout. You would never walk into a gym and immediately try to lift your maximum weight without stretching first. It would shock your system. In the same way, you would not dive into a complex salary negotiation or a deep technical discussion the moment you meet someone. You need to stretch the conversational muscles. You need to break the ice.
Break the ice? You mean like taking a hammer to a frozen lake?
That is exactly the mental image you should have. When 2 strangers meet, the atmosphere can feel frozen, hard, and cold. The silence feels heavy. When you break the ice, you relieve that tension. You crack that frozen silence so the conversation can flow naturally, like water.
That makes perfect sense. Like last week, I went to a dinner party where I did not know anyone. Everyone was just sitting around staring at their phones. I finally broke the ice by asking the host about the amazing smell coming from the kitchen. Suddenly, everyone started talking about food.
Perfect example. You broke the ice. And in a professional setting, we need specific tools to break the ice safely. We do not want to talk about politics or highly personal topics. We need safe, engaging frameworks. To show you how this works, we are going to play out a scenario.
I love our role plays. Who am I playing today?
You are going to be the nervous job candidate. I am going to be the senior manager who is coming to the lobby to greet you. We are going to meet, walk to the elevator, ride up to the 5th floor, and walk to the meeting room. Listen closely to the exact questions the candidate asks.
All right, I am standing by the reception desk. I am holding my bag. I am ready.
Hello, you must be Sarah. I'm Tom, the marketing director. It's great to meet you in person.
Hi, Tom. It's great to meet you too. Thank you for having me today.
Of course. Did you have any trouble finding the office this morning?
Not at all. The directions in your email were very clear. I just took the subway.
Oh, the subway can be so unpredictable at this time of day. How was your commute?
It was actually quite smooth. If I had known the train was going to be empty, I would have read a book, but I just listened to a podcast. I left a bit early to beat the rush hour.
Smart move. Let's head up to the 5th floor. After you.
Thank you. I have to say, this is a beautiful building. The architecture is stunning. How long have you been based here?
We moved into this office about 3 years ago. The building was constructed in the 1920s, so it has a lot of history. We really love the natural light.
It definitely makes a difference in the workday. Has it been a busy week for your team?
Oh, absolutely. We're wrapping up the quarter, so everyone is working very hard, but it's good energy. All right, here's our meeting room. Would you mind taking a seat right there?
Thank you so much.
Okay, scene over. We survived the elevator ride. Let's break down exactly what just happened, because Sarah, your character, used 3 distinct frameworks to keep that conversation alive.
It definitely felt much better than just staring at the floor numbers. The first thing we talked about was the travel, the journey to the office.
Yes, framework number 1 is the journey. This is the ultimate safe topic. Everyone had to travel to get to the location, so everyone has a shared experience. As the candidate, you can wait for the interviewer to ask about it, or you can bring it up yourself.
You asked me, how was your commute? Wait, is a commute just driving a car to work?
No, a commute is the specific, regular journey between your home and your workplace. It does not matter how you travel. It could be a train, a bus, riding a bicycle, or even walking. Your commute is just the trip to work.
Oh, that is a great word. I could say my commute yesterday was terrible because the bus broke down in the rain.
Exactly. Now, let's look at the grammar I used when I asked about your journey. I said, did you have any trouble finding the office?
I noticed you used the past simple tense there. Did you have? Why wouldn't we say, have you had trouble finding the office?
Because the journey is completely finished, you have arrived, you are standing in the lobby, the action of traveling is over, so we use the past simple. Did you take the train? How was the traffic? Did you find parking? All of these use the past simple because the event is closed.
That is a really helpful rule. If we are talking about the trip to the office, keep it in the past simple tense. It is finished.
Exactly. Now, let's look at how your character responded. You used a great conditional structure. You said, if I had known the train was going to be empty, I would have read a book.
I like using that structure because it shows a higher level of English without sounding like a textbook. It sounds very natural in conversation.
It does, but even a simple answer works perfectly. You just want to keep the ball bouncing back and forth. Now, let's move to framework number 2. We stepped into the elevator and you took control of the conversation. What did you ask about?
I looked around and asked about the office. I said, this is a beautiful building. How long have you been based here?
Framework number 2 is the location. When you are stuck in a small space like an elevator, look around you. Comment on the building, the neighborhood, the view from the window, or even the office decorations.
I have to admit, I always get confused with the grammar here. Why did I ask, how long have you been based here, instead of, how long are you based here?
This is where we shift to the present perfect continuous or present perfect simple. You use this tense for an action that started in the past and continues into the present. The company moved into the building 3 years ago, and they are still in the building today. So we ask, how long have you been based here? Or how long have you worked in this building?
Ah, I see, because if I asked, when did you move here, that would be past simple, looking only at the finished event of moving.
Right. Both questions are fine, but the present perfect question often leads to a longer, better answer. It invites the person to talk about their ongoing experience. We have been here for 3 years and we really love it.
When you answered me, you used a formal structure. You said the building was constructed in the 1920s. That is the passive voice, right?
Yes, in small talk, especially when talking about company history or architecture, native speakers often use the passive voice to sound a bit more professional. But notice how we balance it. I used the passive voice for the building, it was constructed, then I used an active, warm voice for the team. We really love the natural light. It's a mix of professional and personal.
If you are enjoying this breakdown and want to build a daily habit of natural English listening, make sure you hit the subscribe button right now so you never miss our real-life conversation guides. Let's look at the third framework. We stepped out of the elevator and walked down the hallway.
Framework number 3 is the week. This is the perfect transition topic. You're moving physically from the public elevator to the private meeting room, so your conversation should shift from public topics to professional topics. You asked me, has it been a busy week for your team?
Again, I used the present perfect. Has it been a busy week? Because the week is not over yet, right?
You nailed it. If it's Wednesday or Thursday, the week is still happening, so we ask, has it been a busy week? If you are meeting on a Monday morning, you might ask about the weekend using the past simple. Did you have a good weekend?
What happens if I ask this question and the manager just says, yes, it has been busy, and then they stop talking? I always get panicked when I get a one-word answer.
That is a tough scenario. If they give a short answer, do not panic. They are probably just thinking about the meeting. You can use a technique called echo and expand. You echo their answer and expand with a sympathetic comment. So if they say, yes, it has been busy, you say, I can imagine. The end of the quarter is always a busy time for marketing.
Oh, I like that. Echo and expand. It shows that I understand their industry and it takes the pressure off them to keep talking. It fills the silence with empathy.
Exactly. It shows you are a good team player. Let's look at another piece of vocabulary related to this. What if you are the person who already works at the company and you are welcoming a new employee? You can ask, are you settling in okay?
Settling in? When I hear the word settle, I think of dust settling on a shelf.
That is a very poetic image, but in this context, settling in means getting comfortable in a new environment. When you first move to a new desk, everything feels strange. After a few days, you learn where the coffee machine is. You learn people's names. You arrange your computer screen. You are settling in.
Right, like when I moved into my new apartment. It felt like living in a hotel for the first 2 weeks. It took me a month to unpack my boxes and finally feel like I was settling in. So asking a new coworker if they are settling in is a very warm, welcoming question.
It is a beautiful question to break the ice with a new colleague. Finally, let's quickly notice the modal verbs I used at the very end of our dialogue. When we reached the room, I said, would you mind taking a seat right there?
That sounds so much softer than saying sit down there or where do you want to sit?
Exactly. Modal verbs like would and could are the ultimate tools for polite requests in English. Would you mind taking a seat? Or could you follow me down this hall? Makes the candidate feel respected.
This is so helpful. We have the journey, the location, and the week, but knowing the theory is only half the battle. When the elevator doors actually close, panic can still take over.
That is why muscle memory is the only way to beat the panic. You have to train your mouth to say the words automatically, without thinking. So we're going into our fluency builder section.
I love this part. This is where you, the listener, get to do the hard work. Even if you are walking the dog, making dinner, or doing the dishes right now, you need to speak out loud. Hearing the words in your head is not enough. You have to physically move your mouth.
Here's how it works. I'm going to play the role of the manager. I'm going to ask you a small talk question. After I speak, there will be a few seconds of silence. In that silence, you must answer me out loud. Do not worry about being perfect. Just keep the conversation moving.
And after the silence, I will give you an example of a good, natural response. Are you ready? Let's start with framework number 1, the journey. Imagine I just met you at the front desk.
Hello, it is great to finally meet you in person. Did you have any trouble finding the building?
You could have said, not at all. Your directions were perfect. I just walked over from the train station.
Excellent. Let's try another one for the journey. Focus on your past simple tense. I'm the manager, and I ask, how was your commute this morning?
You could have said, it was quite smooth actually. The traffic was much lighter than I expected.
Let's move to framework number 2, the location. You're in the elevator with me. I want you, the listener, to start the conversation. Look around the imaginary elevator and ask me how long the company has been based here. Use the present perfect. Go.
You could have asked, this is a really beautiful building. How long have you been based here?
Very good. Listen to the intonation Sarah just used. Let's practice that. The melody of your voice is just as important as the words. Sounding polite means your voice goes slightly up at the end of the question. Listen again. How long have you been based here?
Try repeating it after me, matching my melody. How long have you been based here?
Perfect. Now let's try framework number 3, the week. We're walking out of the elevator and down the hallway. I want you, the listener, to ask me if my week has been busy. Remember to use the present perfect. Go.
You could have asked, has it been a busy week for your team?
Great job. Now let's reverse it. I'm the manager and I'm going to ask you about your week. I want you to give me a positive answer and expand on it slightly. Here we go. It's nice to step away from the desk. Has it been a busy week for you?
You could have said, yes, it has been quite busy, but very productive. I've been wrapping up a big project.
That is a fantastic answer because it sounds energetic and professional. Let's do one final challenge. I am going to give you a short, dead-end answer. I want you to use the echo and expand technique to save the conversation. I am the manager. I say, yes, the traffic this morning was terrible. It took me an hour to get here.
You could have said, an hour. I can imagine how frustrating that is. At least we are safely inside now.
If you can do that, you can survive any elevator ride in the world. You are actively managing the conversation. You are making the other person feel heard, and you are taking away the awkwardness.
It is amazing how mastering just 3 simple topics, the journey, the location, and the week, completely changes your confidence. You do not have to be a genius conversationalist. You just need a framework.
Exactly. When you have a structure, your brain does not have to panic and search for words. You just plug the situation into the framework, and the English flows naturally.
I am going to use these tomorrow when I get my morning coffee. I always stand in silence next to the barista. Now I'm going to ask them if it has been a busy week.
That is the perfect way to practice. Use these formulas with people you interact with safely every day. So, to recap everything we learned today, first, small talk is not just wasting time, it's breaking the ice and building trust.
Second, we use the past simple when talking about the finished journey. Did you have trouble finding us? How was your commute?
Third, we use the present perfect to talk about ongoing situations. How long have you been based here? Has it been a busy week?
And finally, if the conversation gets stuck, use echo and expand to show empathy and keep the energy positive.
Now it's time for your homework. We want to hear from you in the comments. Imagine that Sarah and I are in an elevator with you right now. We just stepped inside and the doors closed. Ask us one small talk question using the present perfect tense.
I cannot wait to read these. Read through the other comments too and see if you can reply to someone else's question. Building a community of practice is the best way to stay motivated. If you know someone who has a big interview or meeting coming up, share this episode with them so they don't freeze in the hallway like I did.
You now have the tools to control the first 5 minutes of any professional interaction. Try using one of these 3 questions at work, at a cafe, or in your English class tomorrow, just to build the muscle memory. Then go watch our episode on interview strengths to master what happens after you leave the elevator and sit down at the table. You're doing great. We'll see you next time.